The World Economic Forum report for the future of work 2025 is out. It's painting grim but very good opportunities for you and I in the tech sector. For example, 78 million jobs will be negatively impacted by 2030. 78 million, imagine. But at the same time, 172 million jobs will be created by that time. How should we prepare for these opportunities? Where is the world going? What will the future of collaborations look like? And what are some of those jobs that are going to be impacted, and how should you prepare just in case you will be affected? Hello and welcome to NTV Takeover. This is Africa's biggest tech conversation and show. My name is Brian Jodotieno, NTV's in-house techie. For this and so much more, I have my good friend Caleb Sami on the show to break this down, cross the T's and dot the I's on this report. But first off, as always, the tech news of the week. Kenyans are hurting the government, quite literally, because the Kenyan government has mandated that all social media companies establish physical offices within the country to address the escalating misuse of online platforms. This directive was communicated by Dr. Raymond Omolo, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Interior, following a meeting with representatives from telecommunications and social media platforms. The government's primary concern includes the proliferation of harassment, hate speech, and incitement to violence on these platforms. The ministry emphasized the necessity for immediate and decisive action to ensure responsibility and accountability in the digital space. By requiring social media organizations to have a physical presence in Kenya, the government aims to enhance oversight and facilitate more effective regulation of online content. This signals a stringent approach towards platform owners who fail to comply with the new requirements. Currently, apart from tech giants like Google and Microsoft, most global social media platforms lack a physical presence in Kenya, conducting their operations remotely. The new directive will significantly impact these companies, compelling them to reassess their operational strategies within the region. This policy shift occurs against the backdrop of increasing online activism and mobilization by Kenyan youth who have utilized social media to voice concerns over issues such as corruption, punitive taxation, the abduction of government critics. In recent months, satirical content targeting President William Ruto and other high-ranking officials has circulated widely on platforms like WhatsApp, highlighting the growing influence of social and digital media in shaping public discourse. The government's decision to enforce stricter regulation on social media aligns with the previous attempts to control digital content. Very well then, now you're up to speed with what's been happening in the tech world. Caleb, good to see you again. The World Economic Forum report for the future of work 2025 is out. What are some of the highlights in your own sense?
Good question. So, World Economic Forum, for those who do not know, it's a global organization that is based in Switzerland, and basically they look at world trends. So they bring world leaders together. So business, governments, and academia, civil socials, they bring those people together, they talk about world trends, what is going on around the world, then they discuss what solutions are there to talk about. So they just released the 2025 report, and it's exciting stuff. If you like the future, if you like technology, if you like advancement, then this is for everyone. I even tell people it's not only for people who are in the job careers. If young people could be told, these people who are in school, to plan ahead what is going to be relevant in 2025 and 2030 in the next 5 years, then it could be really helpful for them. So there's a couple of trends that are running around. There's the demographics, technological advancement, climate change, and some others, okay? So those are the things we're focusing on. Main thing that is catching the world by storm is technological advancement. A lot of people, if you read the data, and I talked about this previously in a previous video, where 90 million people are going to lose jobs, okay? But at the same time, 170 people are going to get jobs, okay? So it's a net of about 18 to 90 million people of job creations. So the 90 million people who are going to lose some jobs, what are those jobs? What are those skills? It's important to pay attention to those. So there are a lot of very fast declining jobs and a lot of high inclining jobs. It's important to base yourself on the right direction. So for example, AI. AI has got everyone by storm. A lot of people, what is widely used is ChatGPT, and most people are more familiar with that. But there are many other AI advancements that are happening behind the scenes. So if you're not aligning your company and your workforce to align itself with AI, then trust me, you're in the wrong direction.
So just as I mentioned earlier on, the report says 78 million jobs will be impacted negatively by 2030. Which are some of those industries that are highly at risk?
Okay, so I'll speak broadly of a few numbers that I know, few roles that are going to decline in the next 5 years. Majorly being clerks, data entry. If you're in the banking industry and you're working as a teller, this is going to go away. Cashiers, and I'll say why. Okay, door-to-door sales. So for example, door-to-door sales, who are they being replaced with? We're in a digital platform. So who are being replaced? So people who go door-to-door sales are being replaced by online platforms and delivery. So delivery of people who deliver trucks and cars and motorbikes, these jobs are really on the incline, okay? Because most people are transitioning online. Once you make an order, I won't go to the shop and tell people, okay, I made an order, give me what I bought. There's someone to deliver. So logistics is also really increasing. So people who are doing door-to-door sales are really going down. Cashiers. So if you're a cashier and you're doing those repetitive same work, you're being replaced by automations and machines, okay? We go to bank tellers. I'll tell an example using the local market data. Back then, when you used to go to the bank, we used to go to the bank to do a lot of cash transactions. So if you want cash, physical cash, you go to the bank, there's a bank teller, and they'll do the transaction for you and you'll get cash. Who are they replaced with slowly? Not fully, but slowly, ATMs, automated teller machines. So these days, there's about more than 2,000 ATMs in Kenya, different places around the country. So if you go to the ATM, you can actually remove cash. But what is happening? There's online digitization of mobile payments. I rarely have cash. I never have cash. These days, when I'm walking around and someone says, do you have cash? Can you give me 50 bob, 100 bob, any amount? I never have cash. Everything has been digitized. And it's not only happening in Kenya, but around the world as we take advantage of blockchain and crypto assets. Because in different countries, they haven't utilized the mobile payments like M-Pesa. But things like crypto, Bitcoins, Tether, USDC, people are taking advantage of that. So tellers are also being replaced.
How will emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics impact the future of work?
So when I was reading through the 2025 report, I decided to go back 10 years. So I went to 2016, and I took the report as well, just to look at the 2016 report for the next 5 to 10 years and compare it with the 2025 that they're saying in the next 5 to 10 years. So in the 2016 report, they talked a lot about robotics. They said AI is on the rise, but they talked a lot about robotics and automation of machines. It's funny because and I was reading through this article, there was a part that was quite funny for me. A skill that is really on the decline for humans is endurance. So coming into a physical work, those are declining skills. Why? Because robots, what you're talking about, and automation are really on the rise. This hard work, because at the same time, when you're doing endurance and physical labor, there's a lot of risks. There's life risk, health risk. You might not be fit for the job, but you're looking for money. So these people are being replaced by robots and automations. They're taking advantage. They never get tired. They can work day and night. They don't have excuses. You get my point. So robotics are really taking over. Automation is really taking over a lot of jobs. So a lot more jobs that are on the incline, online, what you're talking about automation, is software developers. So UI and UX, user interface and user experience. A lot of people are transitioning online. So the work that needs to be done online is to make these applications quite seamless and effective for a lot of people, So for example, I'm working also, like you're saying, you're working on a bot that is working on doing a lot of stuff. Now, on my side, with my team, we're in the fintech, okay? Fintech engineering is also highly on the rise. Now, I used to see, a couple of years ago, they were talking a lot about data and information being the most expensive resource in the world. I used to wonder why. I used to say, okay, what really do they mean? What are you really talking about? Now, if you have access to data, for example, Elon Musk bought Twitter, X now, formerly known as Twitter. X is not only a platform for social media, it's a platform for extracting data, information. What are people thinking? What are people saying? What are world trends? If you can get that information, you can be ahead of the curve. Okay, so how am I applying that to what I'm doing, what I'm working on? So I'm working on a new application and a new software. This can revolutionize what happens in Kenya, Africa, in terms of how you can get information. A lot of people in the finance industry, for example, I want to find information about Safaricom sales, revenues, their journey, where they're coming from, a lot of data. When I go online, there are a lot of people who are giving this data. How do I know that data is true? Who do I know the source is coming from? Those things are a bit complicated. Now, I'm working on a blockchain technology where everything is online, true, and anyone can get access to that data. If you can have access to data, trust me, even the elections that is coming in 2027 here in Kenya, you can be ahead of the curve to know who is probably likely to win the election. So those are things that I'm really working on. Trust you me, in the next 1 or 2 years, you'll see it up running in the market. And those are things we're focusing on.
Caleb, this report just calls for us to be more adaptive. What are some of the skills that we need to acquire to be able to be ready for those opportunities that are coming up?
So I'll talk about 2 major skills that people are paying attention to: analytical thinking and creative thinking. These are very highly hard to be replaced by any automation or any computer. What is analytical thinking? Being able to get data, process it, and make a decision. Okay? Now, these are things that people do not have the capability and the ability to do. If you can focus on getting data, analyzing it, and transforming it into decisive decisions, this is a very upskilling that a lot of businesses are looking for. Creative thinking, how are you good at coming up with new ideas, innovating and all that. Another one that I found very interesting is leadership skills. Now, if you're able to inspire, lead people, these are really on the rise. Make them make decisions that will affect their career. Those are the skills that I'm really seeing, according to the data, that are really on the rise.
Let's zero in on a market-specific segment. Africa's young population is really growing and bulging. And to be honest, the playing field is not even as currently constituted. So just how should governments work together to harness the rich young population's potential in making sure that we close up on that digital and economic divide?
So I like the fact that you're talking about the young people in Africa. Yeah. If you look at the statistics and the data they talked about, UK, let me talk about Europe and the US, there's a lot of aging population. Yeah. If you look at the data for Africa, there's a lot of young population that is on the rise. So it's funny enough, when you talk about the rising jobs in terms of numbers, teachers, educators, tutors, these jobs are very much on the rise in Africa because the target audience is the increasing number of the young people who need proper education. If we do not get proper education in Africa, then how are we going to catch up? If we are always rural, talking about rural stuff, rural-urban migration, it's now or never to become urban. The funny thing is, the United States, we're always talking about the emerging markets, the developing countries. Will always be the developing countries, always be the emerging, because what are we developing? We are following, we're catching up to what is happening abroad. So infrastructure is being worked on by the private sector in terms of not education, but really technology. If technology can be enhanced, then it can be easier to reach more people in urban areas. Very few people in Africa have access to internet, and we're still working on that. Mobile internet has really gotten to many people, but still people don't have access directly to Wi-Fi. You're seeing Elon Musk helping people with Starlink and all that. So if we can get these people to learn education and help them become better at understanding what is happening in the world, then we're increasing the workforce and educating them now to be able to become tech engineers, biotech, because bio is on the rise. In Africa, another thing that is really much on the rise is climate. We hosted the African Climate Summit, green transition. If we do not understand what these are, then we cannot plan ourselves to be in the right position for people to take advantage of those jobs.
Let's talk about remote work. We're seeing a rise in people not being at the office and working from home and working remotely. Talk to us briefly about that and what it will look like in future and the opportunities that will be created also with remote work.
And that's actually funny when you talk about people not going to the office. There's a high rise in terms of social empathy, in terms of listening. It's a job on the rise. If you can lend an ear to someone and talk to them, because there's a lot of remote jobs. So people are not really interacting much physically. So people are at home. People are depressed at home. When you don't have that, we're humans, we are social creatures. When you don't have that interaction, there's what people go through personally. and they want to talk about it. Now, when you're not in an office on one-to-one, there's something that comes up. You build up inside some emotions that you want to talk about. So people who are doing social work, psychology, therapy, these are jobs really on the rise. It's funny, some jobs on the rise, it's those ones that catch you off guard. Bro. You're like, why is this on the rise? But it's actually a thing. People want to be listened to, people want to be heard. These are jobs that are really rising. So people who are in psychology and doing those things, if you can listen, just take some time and listen and give advice. Those are jobs that can give you enough careers to last your lifetime.
Lastly, let's talk about collaboration in terms of diplomacy, development partners, and policy. How will that look like in the future, and how will it impact our lives and employment?
Good question. I'm not deeply involved in that, but just to answer quite slightly what you've asked, the collaborations. Like you think, for example, let's talk about the climate change, and let's talk about climate and technology, because these are really much on the rise, especially in Africa and Kenya. When we hosted the Africa Summit, okay, we're using world data. So there's world data that comes as collective intelligence. And it's important to, why I talk about collective intelligence is where we're talking about different data coming from different sources, being analyzed, looking for the truth, and then acting accordingly with that data, okay? So like, for example, Africa, we're talking about climate change. Farmers, okay, it's funny. Some data is, like I said, it's just quite funny. Yeah. Farmers are also very, very much on the rise, okay? So farmers are collaborating with people in the United States, here in Kenya, okay? Advanced technology helps farmers understand when to plant, when the weather is fine, when not to plant, when to harvest. Advancement in technology and automation and robots is helping harvest more, plant more, have better produce, okay, at the end of the day. So these collaborations in terms of exports, we are a heavy export in terms of things like tea, coffee, and such stuff. So those collaborations are really helping in terms of climate change, technology. So those are things I'm looking at, not really deeply in terms of collaboration. I'm really focusing on what can Kenya on its own produce. We're always relying on the West, always relying on people from outside. Help us, send us money. How can we be self-sustainable? It's not an easy task, but it's a possible task. So those are things that I'm really focusing on. With what we're planning and building at Financial Hub, those are things that we're really looking at.
Thank you so much, Caleb. This has been such an insightful conversation, and of course, we're going to continue with it online. Well, there you have it. We've been speaking about the World Economic Forum 2025 Future of Work report and how it's going to impact you and I in the future. And so how are we generally getting ready for it? That has been Caleb Sami who's been speaking to us about that. The first part of the show is over. We will be back with more after the short break. Don't go too far. Very well then, welcome back. You're watching TECHOVER on NTV, Africa's biggest tech conversation and show. As we talk about the revolution around technology, there is also another very revolutionary thing happening. Health services are moving from the facility as you know it, the healthcare facility, into more concentrated and more personalized services at home. And you can actually do what I would call health hauling and call a medic to your home to attend to you. Or if you're one of those people who calls home or travels home when their mom is sick to go and sort their issue out, then you need to listen to this next startup. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of M Clinic on Startup of the Week. Health services have predominantly been rendered in a medical facility like a hospital or a clinic. With the growing demand for convenience, a Kenyan nurse, Lea Mbuya, and her team came up with M Clinic, a platform that enables patients and those with medical emergencies to ask for medical services and get them at the comfort of their homes or on emergency sites. When TECHOVER caught up with her, she painted a typical Kenyan scenario of how seeking healthcare in the country can be a challenge.
Indirectly or directly, we have been affected by the health system that is ailing. One way or the other, some of us as friends, we have experienced the issue of not getting an ambulance. Evacuation in Kenya is a crisis. You get sick, you cannot get somebody to evacuate you. The other thing, we realized that accessibility of health has become an issue in Kenya. Number one, we produce the best healthcare workers in the country. And that's why we have a lot of exports of human resource. But Kenyans are not the consumers of the human resource we produce in the universities. So for us, we give the healthcare workers a part-time job, just like an Uber. When they are out on off duties or off days, they get to the app, they get a job. From Kenyans who are needy of the services. And one good example we say, why do you need to go for a dressing to a hospital? Line up for 6 hours, minimum turnaround time, come out in that hospital with pneumonia or TB or even COVID, when the dressing could have been done by your neighbor who is a nurse, who is online, and you can be able to call them with an application. So today, there are several medical services that do not need to go to a hospital. Pre-hospitalization and post-hospitalization care. A good example, we have a lot of mothers who are struggling with breastfeeding, which I know the men may not get to understand that breastfeeding is not as natural as people think. Oh yes. Yes. What happens, most of the mothers, they end up getting what we call engorged breasts. Yeah, there's swelling, there's a cracking of the nipples. All these advice can be given by a human resource in the health sector, but they don't need to go to the hospital for that.
With over 20,000 health workers signed up on M-Clinic countrywide, the application is solving the problem of access to healthcare and affordability. It works on the principle of healthcare of confidentiality while exercising professionalism. Functions with virtual clinic, allows patients to consult with healthcare professionals remotely.
Your own privacy, if you don't want virtual that is video-based, we have audio that you have 24 hours consultation with a healthcare worker. And if you feel that you need a touch of a healthcare worker, they will come to your doorstep. Our main aim is accessibility. We bring healthcare to your doorstep. You don't have to go to the hospital comes to you. And in a normal setup, a healthcare worker will work for 3 days and have 4 days off. What are they doing for the other 4 days? Are they utilizing their skills to help the community? And with that, they are also earning when you give them the job. So, for us, we have 4 major rider programs in M-Clinic. Evacuation, medical concierge, which I'll talk about, that is very interesting, medical home visits, and virtual medical consultation. To start with, medical virtual consultation. That is something interesting that we are doing it differently from what other people are doing, because for it is being done elsewhere. Number one, we are doing what we call Kenyans for Kenyans. You may ask, what is that? Kenyans for Kenyans, we realized we have quite a number of Kenyans in diaspora with mental health issues. Today, if you want to afford a session in UK on mental health, it is 20,000 Kenya shilling. For us, per session, and minimum sessions are 5. For us, we are assisting Kenyans in UK per session with 7,000 shillings. We understand their space, we understand the culture, we understand the struggles of Kenyans when they are abroad.
Before healthcare workers are onboarded on the platform, they undergo a rigorous verification system. Leah says this is the most crucial part of their business as they have to uphold quality at all costs.
We work with National Nurses Association of Kenya, the National Association for the Clinicians. We are bringing the KMA on board for one reason. All our healthcare workers have to be licensed, registered, and have a valid license. Yes, we filter them. And our app is in a system that if you are rated less than 3, you are removed for disciplinary. So just the way you rate an Uber driver, you can rate our healthcare worker. If you don't like our services, we remove them. We'll go through the whole system, understand what happened, but by that time, you'll be offline. not accessible to the citizens. Because for us, we want to give quality health care that is sustainable.
And that's our startup of the week. Very well. I told you, convenience is the name of the game over here. Let's get the tech tip of the week and close the show at that point.
Hi guys, and welcome to this week's tech tip of the week. Today I'll show you a simple tip that you can use on your computer. There are many times that you have wanted to capture something specific on your computer screen. So if you go to your computer and hold the Windows Shift plus S key, you'll be able to capture anywhere you want on the screen. So just highlight the area you want to capture and then release it. Once you've done so, at the bottom the image will appear, so just click on it. You can edit it however you want, and then once you're done, click on this icon to save it, and then you can save it to any folder. I hope that was helpful. That's it for this week, and see you in the next one.
As the show comes to an end, before Caleb ends it for us, I would like to mention that the Nation Digital Summit is coming up soon, and you need to sign up either as a speaker, sponsor, or a partner. We would love to have you there in Mombasa, so please reach out to the numbers and the contact on your screen so that you're able to take part and you're able to be part of us on the Nation Digital Summit 2025. Let me now give my guest the opportunity to end the show for us. Caleb, do the honors.
So guys, I hope you've understood and got some knowledge from what I've talked about. There's a lot happening in the world, and I hope you're positioning yourself in the right direction, right career, in order to take advantage of the transformation. Technology transformation is not just happening, we are actually living in it. So thank you for watching. See you on the next one, and may tech live forever.
Sawa. That's where we end it at. Let's see you on the next one next Monday. As always, stay techy and may tech live forever.